is barely even 10%. The allotted budget for 200,000 houses is actually 400 billion. This year we only got 2.7 billion. How are we going to attain that? So the status is very bad, very, very bad. Okay, what needs to be done in order to attain the target that has been set there, and also to make the status much better? We need to look at the basics. What are the basics we are talking about? One, let the government and the stakeholders who are in charge in that sector of affordable housing, let them set targets that are able to be achieved. As I said earlier, the developed countries were only able to attain, and are only able to attain around 700,000 houses in a year. 7,000, sorry, not 700,000. 7,000 houses. The set target for Kenya is 200,000 houses. The last regime, the target was 300,000 houses. They were only able to attain 3,000 in a span of 5 years. So how are we going to attain 200,000? Yet developed countries are attaining 7,000 only. Yet even the budget is not there. So one, if we are to improve the status and for us to attain that target of affordable housing, one, we have to set targets which are attainable. Two, allot more budget to the said place. We had a budget of 2.1, we had a budget of 400 billion, but we only got 2.1 billion. Four, for the sources in regards to affordable housing. That alone cannot attain what we are set. So that is one, budget. Two, attainable goals, so that we can get traction. Two, we need to participate. The government needs to push for more private-public partnerships. What do I mean? With public-private partnership, there are people, the institutions which can be able to pool funds together and push for the affordable housing program so that more can be done. Thirdly, we need to do more in regards to, the government needs to allocate more land, service land. Like recently, and I like what the current regime did. It told the county government to release the land which they were holding. There are a lot of land that has been held by the county government. So they were able to release it, and that is where you are seeing the current president going and launching projects. Okay? So that is good, and that is a good progress, because now we have more land to do those housing and to build those houses. The other thing is the government and also the private sector, they need to look at the materials, the cost of materials. Basically, when you talk of development, we are looking at developers. What do they use to build these houses? If the cost of materials is high, for example, the last year but one, the cost of cement and the cost of metal was really high. Really, really high. So if we are to attain affordable housing, and according to UN Habitat, being an affordable house is something that costs 1.1 million for a single dwelling, and around 2 million to 3 million for multi-dwelling. If you are to attain that, even the developer's cost needs to be low. So they need to check at the cost of materials in order for us to be able to afford. Three, they need to set up an interest that is a bit, the government just needs to look into that part of interest. According to the Central Bank of Kenya is the one that is controlling the interest rates. If the interest rate is really high, we are not able to afford the mortgage. Because again, the cost of getting the finance to build and the mortgage becomes really high. So you're finding a house that has been allocated and the bill of quantity is around 1 million. When I get a mortgage, it becomes like 5 million. So that again, it cannot be affordable. If I'm a developer and I'm developing a multi-dwelling units, and the cost of fixing or making a building and infrastructure is really high, even the cost of rent will be really high as well. So they need to look at that, give us and make the interest even low. The cost of materials, they need to be dropped and lowered low. And another thing that is there, land. Land in Kenya has really been very, 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 very expensive. It has not been affordable compared to other countries. You're finding there's a lot of fuss that is around owning land. So with that has made the cost of land become very high. The demand also has made the cost of land become very high. So you're finding when the cost of land is also high, even building and even renting or even owning becomes also very, very high. So those are the aspects that need to be checked, the cost of land. If you are to build an affordable housing, you also needs to be checked on the cost of land as well. and all these things. Another thing that needs to be looked at, if I may add, is approval by the county and the government that is in question, the offices which are in charge. It takes 44 days for approvals to be done. And even when the approvals to be done, they charge 5.9% of the total cost of building that infrastructure, which is very high. In Ghana, it takes 33 days, and they only charge 4.4% of the total cost of the house, of the unit, of the infrastructure. So you can see this, that is a very big cost, because that cost, again, will be converted and transferred to the last user, or the person who's coming to retail. So again, it becomes really high. So those are the things that need to be looked at. Of course, the government need to encourage more to be done in terms of funding. Like in the developed countries, the capital markets are the ones that fund such infrastructures and developments, which makes it easier to afford such houses. So in terms of whether the government has done what needs to be done in regards to creating awareness of affordable housing, the awareness has been done. But now the question is it affordable? 2, the quantities. They only did 3,000 houses. How many are required? More than 300,000 houses are required every year. So again, it begs the question, affordability, really. The private sector, what the private sector is doing in regards to affordable housing is little, because one, the private sector is complaining of what the government has done. On all the reasons I've given that needs to be done, 90% touches on the government. According to the last regime, for example, let's look at businesses. It did a lot in regards to making somebody to start a business easier. Like now we have this portal known as eCitizen. It takes a day for you to register a business. And like the former years, it will take like 3 years, a lot of middlemen in between, but now it's taking a day for you to register a business. They should make it that way for public and the private sector. Easier for them to start those partnerships, easier for them to commence, easier for them to afford. Because what is happening, there's a lot of bureaucracy. When a public-private partnership is being done so that the private sector can chip in, there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of meetings that need to be had. There are processes. All that needs to be streamlined for it to be affordable. So the private sector, because there are many people out there who can be able to chip in and assist the government in meeting the target of affordable housing. But what is there? Corruption. What is there? Bureaucracy. Long processes that are not going anywhere. So the private sector actually has only chipped in very little. What I'm saying is the government needs to do a lot more. Yes, it's encouraging, but the encouragement is not yet there. They need to do more. They need to really go on the ground and ask the private PP, what we call the triple Ps, what do they really need in order for them to chip in and assist in the affordable housing projects. If the targets are met, one thing, the main thing that is causing the small progress is funding. The funding is the main thing. If the government is to fund that well, they'll be able to reach a target. They'll be able to get much traction. At least now, last regime we saw 3,000 houses being given out. But now the budget it's allocated 400 billion, but now it's just 2 billion. That cannot do much. So in as much target is to be met, the budget needs to be there. What the private sector is doing despite the challenges you're facing, well, actually, I don't think there's anything much being done. What you are seeing in the current Kenya we are living in is somebody just goes, buys land and develops a housing project. But it's not affordable. It is not as affordable as we think. The government is the only thing that can be able to spearhead that, because it's the only one that can subsidize the cost of materials. It's the only one that can give loans at affordably. And like when you go to bank institution, they're giving you at 13%, 12% thereabout. The government can be able to give us even at 7%. But now there's not much being done to support that. So in regards to private-public partnerships, most developers, what they are doing, they are going, developing, buying land and developing their own projects, which when you check, they're very expensive. Not any ordinary Kenya can be able to afford that. How do you convince the public that affordable housing is actually affordable? It's basically the cost you put across. If it's a 2-bedroom unit and you're charging it, the rent is 11,000. That is now affordable, because nowadays a 2-bedroom unit anywhere in the urban sectors is from 20,000 going up above. And by the way, even a one bedroom, you're getting at 20,000 now. So it all depends. It's affordable, yes. How much is the mortgage? That's one thing. Because one of the way to own that place, to own that affordable house or project is one, mortgage. Two, the rent probably. So if the mortgage is affordable, if the sale price is affordable, then the sector will just dive in.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki hii story.
Nikifika watu wangu watu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood, naweza kupokeleka.
Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea. Siku nyingine tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county. Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV 47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand.
I defined affordable housing. I started with a salary bracket. 74.5% according to a study done by the UN Habitat. 74.4% of the population actually in Africa, not just alone in Kenya, are actually living between that bracket, 0 salary to 50,000. And their housing plan is actually for 30% salary. That is how they have actually done a budget for their salary. 30% goes to the housing, be it rent or mortgage. And as you see, a house currently around where they live is quite expensive if you just do the maths. So getting and reaching that target, and where we are right now, it's a crisis, and the status is havoc, let me say so. In terms of trying to get there, I think the government needs to do a better strategy. One, look at the materials, cost of materials. It's quite high. Look at the cost of land. It's very, very high. Very, very high. So if you tell me to build a house or even to look for a house, anyone, even the developers alone, it is really hard to meet that. For you say there are companies which are selling houses at 2.2 million for a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. That is really good. But where are they? Where are they based? You're finding them in locations where nobody is now interested, probably. You're finding them now in very far areas. Again, you're finding them having compromise because there's no quality policies which are being put in place. So yes, it's a house that is going for 2 million. It's very affordable, but the location is not where you intend it to be. Probably it's somewhere very remote, where probably there's no infrastructure. Okay? So that alone is limiting people from owning. But it's a very good thing. It's a very good thing that is starting. Companies are actually, and I can mention a couple of them, who are doing well. But again, there's also a bit of which has coming up. The off plans which you are getting for affordable housing, a house costing 2 million, you're finding them, they are cooks probably who are doing that work. So when you chip in, they end up running away with your money. And I can mention such companies on air. Yeah. But if the government was to spearhead it, it will be, people will trust it more. Because the government has no intention of calling you. Investing in affordable housing, people are actually investing, but now there's none. There's this Boma Yangu. It's a project it's a platform where it encourages people to chip in, pool their funds together, and then they own a house at the end of the day. But if you check that platform right now, I believe more than 1 million people registered. I think they actually passed 1 million. It's already passed. I think it's heading to 3 million. And just check it out now, Boma Yangu. But how many houses were issued last time? 3,000 houses. When are all these other people going to get their affordable houses? So that is a question of, that is what I'm saying. If the government is to meet this target, they need to allot more public funds. They need to allot more funds to that sector so that they can also now have more houses to give out. That is the only solution. That is one of the main solutions. Of course, the government has also set up institutions to give affordable mortgage, but the institutions, again, the interest is still too high for the common mwananchi. What are the challenges as a private sector that you go through in regards to that sector? There are many. In fact, it is not possible. It is only the government that is able to afford that. Let me give you an example. A land in one of the common areas, where do you say? Around the outskirts of Nairobi. You're not finding a land 40 by 60. Let's say a 40 by 60 land. If you don't have a million with you, you cannot afford that land. Okay, that is one thing. So you bought a land, it's $1 million shilling. So let's start building. The cost of materials, very high. Cement, very high. You need all that. What else? You need the laborers. The cost of a laborer, a fundi, a normal fundi, if I use that term. Initially it was 800, now it's 1500. Why? Cost of unga has gone up. All these things, they're all linked. So it's only the government that can intervene for everything to be affordable. How? Well, okay, the land you cannot control. But at least the cost of materials, cost of affordable, you need finance. If I can be able to get that finance at a very good low interest, I'll be able to meet that goal. If I'm able to afford these other materials and even get laborers who are able to be, who are able to give me a good low price and now equipment the process, I'll be able to build that house and sell it at affordably. But now everything is so high. How are you going to meet that target? Yet your salary is not improving. Your salary remains as is. So if it's 50,000 salary, do that is 30%. 50% is already 25,000. So it means you are allotting less than 20,000 to your rent, right? Yet you come here, somebody has built a house, it's 2.2 million or 5 million. They are renting in how much? 50K. That is a standalone. Okay, let's go for apartments. Where are you building apartments? The only place that you are allowed to build apartments really high and affordably, a 1 bedroom, now you're getting at 20,000. So it's a family. Most likely you find somebody who's being paid 50,000 is now in the sector, he already has a family, he's already established. So 30% is salary, is for rent. Are you able to still going to afford the house? It's too high. So they need to fix, the government needs to fix, it's only the government that can be able to give affordable housing. That is what I can say for myself. Otherwise, if me in the private sector am to do an affordable housing, maybe it will not work out for me, because as again, the fact that I'm a private sector, I'll want as much profit as can. But the government will build houses, and it will just be target. We want to reach a target. It will not be profits. But the private sector will be, I need profit. I need profit. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm building a house, I need profits. So that is where we are in affordable housing. So that's why I'm insisting, it's only the government that can intervene. It's as simple as this. Staple food. The staple food in Kenya is ugali. Okay? Or the osima in English. So how much is the cost of a unga? There's a time it was going for 300 or 200 shillings. What do people, there are protests all over. It was lower to 170 thereabout. See, what did the government do? Subsidies, provide, import for us. So we are able to afford the cost of the unga because the government did something. So it's the same thing. Affording the housing, it's only the government that can intervene. Because when the private sector goes and buys land, it will buy it expensively. When it's selling, it will want a profit at the end of the day. You see? So it's all linked to the government. A lot more funds to the affordable housing project. Now fulfill the target and now give to the public. That is the only way. Do you know Mauritius is I think the second one in Africa, the second country in terms of development. It's really developed, it's really done well. Look at Netherlands. They develop this thing, they develop those houses. Look at America. They don't do stones. It is too costly. Stones are too costly. If you go to Darugo or mine, you get that you get that stone at 25 shillings. You load it on a truck. Where do you take it? To a project somewhere. You are building a house somewhere. So by the time it's getting to where you're doing the project, that stone costs how much? Probably 30 shillings or 40 shillings. You have actually paid even the lorry or the truck that brought you that. Pay that fundi. Buy that cement. Where is cement coming from? Somewhere in Africa or somewhere in China or somewhere in Bamburi. What is the cost of one bag? 800 shillings, and it's keep going high. Come to fittings. Where are the fittings coming from? From China. How much do they cost? They are very expensive. So at the end of the day, as you complete a house, it has actually, that 3-bedroom house has actually gone all the way to 10 million or 5 million. So the rent for that house will be how much? 50,000 probably. Why? I want to make a profit. I want to recover my return on investments. So it's only the government that can intervene and do something about it. Other is that question of affordable housing, not in the private sector. Not in the private sector. Because the private sector will still go for those loans. How much are the loans? The loans are still 13%. While the government can get them through government bonds. My party in short for the affordable housing is I'm urging the government to do more in regards to affordable housing projects. A lot more budget to it, fulfill the target. Also support institutions that have been set up, the KMF, the Kenya Microfinance, all those, they need to be supported. Support and create better avenues for the public-private partnerships to be done in order to support the government, because that is another way. In regards to sourcing of funds, they also need to include the capital markets and urge the capital markets to do more in regards to raising the finance and the funds. Once that is done, the government has a lot of land to build those projects. 3, do something in regards to subsidizing the materials which are being bought, where they're coming from, maybe remove the tax. It will help a lot. 2, the faster processes of approving projects and lower costs of charging such projects. 5.9, that is already 6% of the total cost of a project. So it means if I'm doing a project of 3 million, already 6% has already been added to it for approvals, which is very high. It doesn't work that way. So I will urge the government, because people must work, people must have housing, people must have a roof on top of their heads. They need to really do something about it. Mostly devolutionizing, they need to devolutionize that whole aspect of affordable housing. That is the only way.
We've value your feedback. If you would like to send questions, comments, suggestions, or complaints for any of our programs, call us on telephone number 0740-047-047 or email us at info@capemedia.co.ke. You can also write to us at PO Box 599 00606, Sarit Center, Nairobi, or you can reach us on any of our social media platforms at TV47 Kenya across all platforms. You can also drop your complaint or feedback at our offices, House number 3, Western Park Court,